trying to put
That's what's the problem with it.
It's not like three, it's not open.
Okay, it just glitched.
Oh, nice.
And it just became open.
Yeah, you called it out.
Thank you.
That was the secret to shame it. If you shamed it, cool work.
Welcome, everyone. This is the fifth for Austin Filecoin Orbit group. Yeah,
Come on.
thanks for being here. Yeah, just gonna do some quick announcements. So Logan's gonna do just the agenda for today. Logan's gonna do a web page on IPFS walkthrough. I'm gonna talk about planetary consensus, pretty cool new way to scale blockchain, layer 2. And then, kind of leave it for open discussion. We do this every third Tuesday of the month. Appreciate everyone being here again. Next event is June 20th. Yeah, if anybody wants to give a talk or a demo, please reach out. We appreciate it. We have a new logo. So this is the result of kind of the collective votes from the last few. So this is what we settle on for now, at least.
So sorry to interrupt. There's still a few problems, okay? It's a cactus. And I stole that from Protocol Labs. They did an event here in Austin, and it had a bunch of cool assets. And so I stole the cactus, okay? And I thought it was great. And then somebody pointed it out. You don't see cactuses like that here in Austin. So we have to find something that
That's more Austin.
Armadillo.
an armadillo.
No,
right.
the
We need
grackle.
something. That is a cactus from Arizona. We don't have cactuses like that.
We have different shaped cactus.
We have different shaped cactuses. We do.
Prickly pear.
We have like a little round one,
Yeah,
okay, that you step on. So maybe we turn it into that. I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah.
If we're talking branding, I don't think the cacti is the problem. But carry on.
We welcome all feedback.
Open source. So go.
I
It's all
will
you
say
need
it
a
looks just like a cactus. It says Austin, so I know where.
It's West Texas.
We need a longhorn.
This is our website, guys, austinorbit.io, and you can reach out to us, yell at us through here. GitHub, all of the slides and everything will be on our GitHub, so that's where you can get all the info. Yeah, we also have a Slack, so we'll put this QR code up a few more times. If you guys want to join our Slack. Yeah, appreciate the sponsors for this event. Sponsored by Filecoin Foundation, Convergence, my company, Open Links, which is Alex and Logan's company, and Capital Factory. So yeah, appreciate the sponsors. And yeah, happy N2. We'll put this back up a few more times. We really appreciate if you guys take the survey, fill out the survey. It helps us know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. So, cool. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Logan.
So Web3 is too big of a term, but interplanetary is totally fine.
Right, right. So yeah, we were having a discussion earlier, like 5 minutes ago, about this term Web3, and people. Yeah, I was just explaining how some people from IPFS. So for everybody who I guess wants to know, because you're here anyway, IPFS. The whole reason why we're here, Filecoin is the one sponsoring this event. The whole reason why Dante, we're all here excited about Filecoin and IPFS is IPFS is basically a whole new internet. Okay, we have HTTP, HTTPS. That's what most of our internet runs on today. It was built a while ago, and so there's a lot of technical problems with it. So let's move on to something new. The interplanetary file system is what we have. So when people go around, like if you're here at Consensus, there's a lot of Web3 people. Well, what does Web3 even mean? Most of the people that say they're Web3, they're hosting all of their stuff on Web2 stuff.
Yeah.
So what's Web3 about any of this? Like any project that you guys know about, chances are probably it's like the least Web3 you can get. So what I heard from somebody, I was talking to an employee here at an event here, an employee from IPFS, and I was saying something like, I was like, oh, well, that isn't even Web3. And they looked at me and they were like, Logan, they were like, there's no such thing as like Web3. They were like, is it open or not? You know, is it, because like, even if it is Web3, it's all Web2. So, just to, what he mentioned, you know, let's get on to, are we past Web3 already? It's like, I don't know what we're past. It's just, we're moving on to a new internet, and it's really, it's just, I call it, is it the open web? And so I have a project called Open Links. I stole that from another project, OpenSCAD, which is if you do like graphic design, if you do 3D printing, there's a whole program that's open free, that's open source, it's called OpenSCAD. I think OpenVPN is another one. There's so many things that we use that, so yeah, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people in Web3, they have never heard this talk, they've never heard this conversation of, oh, you know, there's no such thing as Web3. There's this new company, what is it? It's like they created Web5 or something, or the name of the company is Web6 or something. I don't know. So, let's try to get my things across. So yeah, what we're going to do today is we're going to put a website on the interplanetary file system, which is actually like a lot more difficult than you would think. We have a new version of the internet, and so there's a lot of ways to do. I did it earlier and it worked. Yeah. So yeah, who in here has actually used IPFS at all?
No.
Did you raise your hand? Okay.
Please
I have IPFS. That's how I got my large language models. Gotta love it.
Web pages are something we've been using for a long time. Who in here has a web page of their own? Who makes web pages at all? All right, we've got some web page builders. Okay, lots of web page builders. Okay, so there's a few different types of web pages. So I don't want to get into like the deep. I don't want to get into like the specifics too much. But with IPFS, everything that we knew about how to save a website is changed. Okay, so before, when you build a website, you have this cool index.html. That's essentially what you're seeing here. It's just a bunch of directions, I think. And so this index.html, this is obviously HTML. So vanilla. There's no JavaScript in this. There's nothing dynamic in this yet. Whenever I started putting websites on IPFS, you really like are used to a certain way of doing things. When you start doing it on IPFS, everything's you don't get dynamic anything. So all my websites would have JavaScript. If you build websites, putting JavaScript in your website, putting a script in there to say, hey, Java, do this, pretty common. It doesn't work on IPFS. And so if you're going to do anything dynamic, it needs to be rendered statically. So what that means is, the only reason why I'm telling you this is if you're going to go to IPFS, which I want you to go do, and go put your website on IPFS, the only problem is it's not the easiest, because if you have any JavaScript in it, okay, you're going to have to rewrite the app to where it's ran statically, okay? Just like this HTML page that I have right here is a static page. There's nothing dynamic about it. It's right now you see there's 11 there's 11 different memes on this, okay? So this is a page that all I want to do is I make a bunch of memes, I post them on Twitter, and the memes are just about like tech or something. Here's one. And all I want to do, bad internet, I guess. So all I want to do is I just want a place to just collate all my memes, okay? So there's nothing, the thing is, there's nothing dynamic about this. I have to go and change the code every time I want a new meme in here. And so the way you do that is just with React. I would do it with JavaScript, but you can't because IPFS doesn't allow that. And so I just want everybody to know, if you're going to build a web page on IPFS, a big thing that they don't tell you, or it's not obvious to everybody in the documents, is it has to be static. Okay, so that means it's either HTML or you do a build in React. Pretty simple. I don't know why that's just not plain as day. Did you know that?
No.
Okay. Did you know that?
But like, why though?
Yeah, why? That doesn't make sense. Because JavaScript runs in your browser, so.
It's a file system,
Yeah.
it's not a database, it's not.
Right. There's nothing dynamic about it. So
Well,
it's a means of getting a file from A to B.
Yeah.
And the problem with running JavaScript, and this might answer your question. The problem with running JavaScript in it is your browser doesn't want to trust it. Okay, it sees something coming in from IPFS, and it's like, oh, I don't want it. So the reason why it has to be static is so that way your browser, whenever you're loading it, it can actually trust it, and it's not actually going to be like. So yeah, that's
That sounds like a browser problem, honestly. You know.
Okay, go talk to the browsers. go talk to Chrome and tell them that. And you know what they say? They go, they're like, whatever. Have a good day. They're like, we'll deal with that when it's actually a problem. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So there are some browsers. Brave for one.
Oh, Brave.
They're awesome. There's a few more. Opera, I think Opera does it maybe. But yeah, Chrome. The thing is 99% of users use Chrome. So what are you gonna do? You know? So that's the problem. So if you're gonna build anything that, like, I want my mom to be able to see, I want my grandma to be able to go to it, right? They don't know. They're not gonna authenticate cores, you know. So yeah. So there's a little background. So the thing about IPFS.
Hold on. So you can't serve static JavaScript that is stored on IPFS to be run in the browser.
You can. It's just you're gonna have to deal with the difficulty of getting your browser to trust it enough to be able to actually run it. Okay, because your browser doesn't like to just run scripts that it doesn't know where it's coming from.
Can't you use source or
Trust
integrity?
me. You could set up SSL scripts. You could set up APIs. The thing is, for every user, it's going to be different. Every browser is going to be, you know, like.
That's why WebAssembly is probably the best way to do it.
Well, WebAssembly is no different from JavaScript.
I mean, yeah, well.
The thing is, there's ways you can trust WebAssembly, maybe more. Okay.
It's compiled, it's pre-compiled, so the browser doesn't have to
There you go.
do anything to run it.
I don't want to interrupt the talk, but I guess I wonder like how the even DNS work. You know, like how does it find resolve the web page, or maybe that's what it's about, right?
Right. So with IPFS, it's a good like transition. Do we have any more questions? Because that like perfectly transitions.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask next.
Right.
Yes.
So the whole thing about IPFS, the whole thing, like when I normally have a web page that I built, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Amazon and I'm going to say, hey, can I put this in your bucket? Okay. So I put my file in their bucket. So then whenever a user wants to go to my web page, they go to the bucket. Okay? So the big thing about IPFS is you're not going to the bucket anymore. You're going to the source, you're going to the content identifier. So you're getting away from saving. Everything on the internet is location addressed. It's addressed by a place. Okay, the thing about IPFS is you're addressing by the content. Okay, so everything's changed, everything's different now when you address it by the content. Because the whole reason why you can do that is because every time you say, I want a picture of a cat, you know you're gonna get a picture of a cat because you're asking for the content itself. You're not asking for, hey, give me the house with cat in it. Okay, that's what people normally do on Web 2, if you want to call it that. They say, give me, right. So it's like, that's insecure, you know? If you're still gonna trust what's inside that place, you know, and so yeah, that's what's exciting. That's why our web pages have to be different. That's why, and it's like, the whole reason is like, why would I want to go and have to do this? What's the whole reason why, like, my web page works perfectly fine? The question is, does it? Okay? Because the second any government says, I don't want somebody to get to that bucket, they can just flip a switch and that whole web page is down. So in I don't know, 3 years ago in Spain, whenever Barcelona, or I don't know if it was 3 years ago, it was a while ago, when Barcelona wanted to secede from Spain, Spain was like, oh no, turn off their internet. And their internet was off. And so what did everybody in Spain do? What did everybody in Barcelona do? They switched to IPFS. You couldn't, and then the government couldn't do anything. They can't do anything about it. So, so that is the open internet.
And that's how they managed to succeed.
Exactly, right? Because they didn't, right? Right.
España sobrevivió.
Right. That same example follows in China too. China will lock down a lot of content, and so yeah, in Ukraine it's pretty cool too, because like if you film something, like Russia is the #1 for faking tons of shit. So the content being able to have like the content identification of the videos that are recorded in Ukraine. That's what company is doing that? Starling Labs is doing that. They're authenticating videos with IPFS. Super cool. So yeah, we have why you want to do, the whole reason why you want to put your websites and all of this crap on IPFS is when somebody gets mad, it's not going to go down. I have a cool app. It's really dope. It's called openlinks.io. You go to it. It's a link tree. So everybody knows what a link tree is. You put your links in it. Cool. Linktree raised a bunch of money like last year. They're gonna raise a lot of money. Okay, so they've got bills to pay. They've got employees. They probably have more employees than Walmart does. So someday in the near future, they're probably gonna jack up the prices or something. Something's gonna change to where they're not gonna have to where your Linktree page could be in jeopardy. You don't get access to your Linktree page unless you pay $5 a month. For a little web page, okay, that's pretty dumb. So, cool thing about my app is all the pages, if you go and you sign up and you create a page, okay, it's SSO, so it's like, it should be very easy to, But, so yeah, the cool thing is if my app goes down, if I don't pay my AWS bill, everybody's Linktree pages are still up. They're still on IPFS. So like, it doesn't, so the reliance isn't even on the developers anymore. So that's exciting. That's one of the reasons why I used IPFS is because if I just disappear, my project is still moving and it's not insecure. So, 10 out of 10. So yeah, that's the why. Let's actually start just, let's actually do this. And so, we have an HTML page here. I wrote this a few days ago, very like super simple. Yeah. So yeah, super easy. Okay, we got index.html. Okay, we've got my font here. This is some CSS for styling. Okay, and then we have, so here, this is, I guess this is my wrong index. Here, we have, this is all addressed by a spot, by a place. Okay, so this is what your web page would look like if it's just posted on Amazon. Okay, if I threw this on an S3 bucket, I would have the same addressing. I would have a folder inside of my big folder, and it's like that's where I keep all my photos, and you just call each photo in the folder. So this is what a general HTML website on the normal web looks like, and I'll show you this is what one looks like on, IPFS. Sorry. Simple. So this is the addressing for when it's on IPFS. So as you can see, I'm not addressing by a folder anymore, I'm addressing with a location. And the location being this massive, this is called a BAFI, or this is a new version of a content identifier right here. So this big BAFI is how you call an IPFS object. So this is, that whole string right there illustrates an image. Pretty simple.
Question, can you use an IPNS with those long strings, you can get them to be a short pointer?
Oh yeah, yeah. For open links, right, if you're building a Linktree page, every time you would make a new page, every time like one of my users would make a new page,
You'd have to make a new IPNS entry.
well, IPFS is content identified, right? So if the
Right.
content changes, the identifier to get to it changes too. So you have to use, so like all of our users were like, every time I make a new page, I get a new link. They're like, how do is there a way that I could maybe not get a new link every time? And so we had to put IPNS in it, interplanetary naming system. So yeah, so this is the BAFI, and then you have, this is obviously a location. Okay, so I'm giving this to a sort of Amazon to kind of take care of and hold, and so I'll show you, because like, IPFS is the interplanetary file system, right? It's meant to where my computer is running IPFS, and to where if somebody, the whole like core of IPFS is if I have a video, I'm a professor right now, and I say I want everybody to go and watch this YouTube video by yourself. Okay, just take the next 5 minutes, go watch this YouTube video. Everybody's gonna go and they're gonna get onto YouTube themselves, and everybody is gonna go request that video. HTTPS means that everybody, all of you will download it yourself. The whole point of IPFS is when I tell you to go do that, the first person to go grab the video, the first person that's just the quickest, they grab the video, and then everybody else, IPFS will route it to that phone. Just because that's what it should be. Okay, why are we doing all this hippity hoppity and wasting? So just in one class, 100 gigabytes can just be gone. Just because one professor was like, yeah, go spend 5 minutes, watch this video. It's like, we don't have to waste that data anymore. And so the thing is if I have a website and I put it on this laptop, and like thousands of people around the world are trying to request data from this laptop, it's not gonna be very fast. Okay, because whatever my internet is, that's the bottleneck. And so, so a lot of, the reason why I'm saying like, we're in the open internet and like, it's not Web 2, Web 3, is because even if I have a web page on IPFS, I still need to put it in a place that is you can get to it. Okay, so that still means I'm putting it on something that looks a lot like Amazon or etc. And so what we use, what we figured out this year was this cool company called Web3 Storage. It's built by Protocol Labs, who builds IPFS, and so they were of course the smart ones to figure this out. And so it's just like Amazon. Okay, you go to AWS and then you say log in, and then boom, with internet, it'll log in. And then what you do is I have my little photos here. I have like this photo of this cat. So you can just easily upload the file, drop it here. Cool. So as you see, complete. So that's a PNG or a JPEG image. Okay, for as far as IPFS goes, if you've ever worked with IPFS over the past couple of years, I dropped that thing in there and it's complete already. Okay, that doesn't always, like, if you've worked with IPFS, Dante, it's not always that fast. And so to be able to have tools and stuff to make this easier to use, thank you, Web3 Storage. does anybody, Frank works with IPFS, a lot of people here do, I guess. If any of you have any ideas on where to put IPFS data that's contactable, I'm all ears. Everybody in the room should know too. So yeah, like.
And you could spin up any cloud server and put it there. You could run your own.
Right. So what he's saying is you could.
Closet server.
What'd you say?
My closet server, my
Yeah.
little home lab.
Totally.
What's your data link? How fast is your internet speed?
It's a 2 gigabit.
You've got 2 gigs?
Yeah.
In your closet?
Yes.
You've got 2 gig in your closet?
It's a fiber connection.
That's pretty.
It's a fiber closet.
Even if it is a fiber connection, 2 gig is a quick one. All right, I'm just saying.
I mean, probably
5
1 point something. Or
you can get 5 gig. You can get 5 gig.
You can get 5 gig in Austin if you have AT&T fiber.
Yeah.
I have AT&T fiber. And you know how much money they're gonna you know how much money they're gonna charge you?
$180 a month.
180?
That's really good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. For 2 gig from Google is like 100.
Well, the 2 gig you get from Google is only the downlink. They still restrict you to 1 gig
One
up.
up.
But
See,
for
that's the
AT&T,
shit- that's the
5
shit that
gig
they don't
is
tell you.
symmetric fiber.
Yeah.
Darn. What? Alright.
So yeah, so you could almost put it in your closet, you'd be fine. But most people don't have 2 gig coming in, okay? And so yeah, so what Dante's saying is you could go to Amazon, you could go to anybody and say you could get a server from them and then get IPFS running on that and then send your files to that server, right? Which okay, I'm a cloud dev. Okay, I got customers, I got shit broken, right? So you're right, 100%. Is what you're talking about more efficient and cost effective? Yes. Is it as easy? No. Right. So yeah, it's good that everybody knows all the options.
What about like Pinata? Is that similar kind of thing?
Perfect. That's a good idea. Yeah, I didn't mention Pinata. You could probably do the same. Their storage prices have gotten a little hectic. they've got like 12 tiers. They've got tons of stuff going on. So
it's almost like for us, we want them to keep raising the prices.
Yeah. To be honest, no. Like Pinata's prices are high. Okay, so that is like. There's a service that they're providing. If you make NFTs and like you're using Pinata to host, and that's like Pinata works for you, and you want to pay it, then 10 out of 10, use it. But it's also, hey, if you know cloud servers and you know how to set up a network like that, then set up one exactly like Pinata. Like a lot of their stuff is open source too. So yeah, that's the cool part. Is a lot of these entities are very expensive, and so there is a lot of low-hanging fruit that you can just go and. There's like I've been told there's also strawberries. Okay, so it's not even fruit that you have to. It's on the ground. So yeah. So we have Pinata's a really good one. Lighthouse.storage is a good one. There's a few service providers that will do it. Convergence. Go talk to Dante. You know, like I said. So yeah, I got my cat, I got my stable cat on here going into IPFS. Wow, okay, this is a pretty big deal. We have, Dante, you see this? Here we have storage deals that were completed, which is good, because they haven't been getting completed for a while. So that's actually really good for everybody who's like thinks that's funny. Pretty cool. So yeah.
But then if it's on Filecoin, what's the Filecoin series?
So if it's on Filecoin, they probably map it to the same using the map it to.
Basically mapped, yeah. It's stored in a car. It's a content archive file.
Yeah, car file. You love car files. You use those all the time. Yeah. It is suspicious, you know. It is, and I agree. You should go get into it.
So, are you paying for storage?
So, am I paying for storage? With like, in what context?
Like I think earlier you said you have to worry about some developer paying or some company paying their AWS bill so that your data
Right.
can be.
Okay. So are you paying Logan? So you're using Web3.storage. Are you paying for them too? The answer is yes. 100%. Web3.storage has a few different tiers, and since Web3.storage is built by Protocol Labs themselves, the people who built IPFS, they have ingrained a base tier that is basically free. Like, if you could be storing, I think, up to at least 5 gigs, which if you have a website that's over 5 gigabytes, that's a hefty website, and you should be paying. But if you have anything less than 5 gigs, is free. And that's just because I think it's from Protocol Labs. But I pay for my storage just because if you're a paying customer, you get faster latency to request. And so people who are going to your objects will get faster. But yes,
It's like $8 a month, right?
I think for the best one you can get is $8 a month, which
What's kind of cool though is you could be paying for another one too, and because it's the same protocol, it gets rid of some of the counterparty risk.
Yeah, you should talk about that too, like you can have.
oh yeah, sorry to actually answer your question. Okay, to get away from you're using a service provider anyway, they could go belly up too. The cool thing about IPFS is you're addressing by the content, right? So I can ask for the content multiple places. I can say ask Web3.storage. I can say ask Lighthouse.storage. And so you can be storage provider agnostic to where you can just load up tons of storage providers on top of each other.
So kind of like a magnet link in some ways. It's like
Exactly like a magnet,
It's a magnet link that every time you add to it, it adds it automatically. So you have that one piece of content, you can put it on Pinata, you can put it on Web3 storage, you can put it on Fleet. And then so all it does is just makes it faster.
And it doesn't replicate the data, it's deduplication,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, it just goes across, like whichever one hits it faster, so that's like the beauty of
It's
it.
really efficient.
You have to like just depend on one, like if AWS goes down in one region, you're kinda stuck. Whereas if you do this on multiple different ways, you can do multiple pinning, then all those are ready to go to serve your content.
Alright, so let's say I wanted to host my chunk files that, are in my closet server, and they're really big. I don't wanna pay the storage fees, cause I already have the equipment. I could put, I would be able to get this IPFS address. Most people would be hitting my server if they wanted to read the files, but I'm guessing that at some point it would be syndicated out to other servers that have, downloaded it.
Exactly. If they're hosting an IPFS server and they request the data,
Okay.
and the data is following, thing is if a normal IPFS node is only going to be holding like 100 megs of data by stock, right? So if your chart file is bigger than that, then you're going to have maybe some
Super junk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, talking about Plex server.
So yeah, if you got if you got ISOs or something, and ISO is going to be 6 gigs, and so you're gonna that's another big thing too. Is we've got low hanging fruit here, or strawberries, right? So if there's a way that you can figure out how to host that 6 gig payload, put it on GitHub and show people because they want to know. 6 gig, that might be something you're looking at too. Yeah, you're more, yeah. So, yeah. That's it.
Break it up into 100 megabyte chunks and then be like, hey, here's a pointer to the other
You can do chunks.
IPFS thing.
Chunking is a big thing. That's what he does. If you want to talk about chunking, you come talk to him. But to answer your question, magnet links are it's a way that an onion link can get, or actually it's a torrent. It's a torrent link. And so, magnet links are cooler than just standard torrent links because you can load a lot more peers in them. Correct. I'm not an expert on
also
torrenting.
using it will also see that you're trying to use it, and they'll be like, I've got that file, and then they'll be swarming or something like that. Basically,
that's exactly what it does. Yeah, that's done on the DHT, I believe.
Distributed hash table, something like that. Something like that.
It's the same where we are. Yeah, we use the DHT to keep track of what people have.
So, earlier you mentioned if you gave the example of downloading a video, that if you had a classroom of people that were downloading a video, So how does that actually work? Cause like, you know, if my phone like is set so like, I don't wanna, you know, accept connections from like other people that are around me. Well, you know, how does that actually work?
Right. Yeah, if you're gonna do that, you better do it very carefully, right? And you better have a protocol. So on the protocol level, I'm not actually like to be honest, I don't know off the top of my head where. So essentially, like, you're gonna ask DNS. You're gonna ask a domain name service in your campus. Yeah, okay. So if you're on a campus somewhere, if you're at a college here at UT, and your professor does this, okay, your campus, your whatever classroom you're in, is gonna have, well, okay, my question is, are you on 3G or are you on Wi-Fi?
Yeah, Wi-Fi. Yes.
You're on Wi-Fi, good, thank God. Okay, because that means my scenario works. So if you're on Wi-Fi, it means you're connected to a DNS server on the campus. They're gonna have their own DNS server, and it's gonna be a nice one, because that's what campuses do. And so your phone is gonna go to that, and it's gonna say, hey, I'm looking for this video. And the DNS is gonna say, hey, Frank just pulled it. So just go to, I'll route you straight to Frank's phone. And you'll legitimately go talk to the protocol on his phone.
Apple will, like, the Safari browser on Apple will allow that?
Yep. Yep. I mean, inshallah, God willing, you know, inshallah. knock on wood.
I actually hosted a video on my phone, and it was like,
See, you're lucky. We've been talking about video on IPFS ever since IPFS was like thought of. Okay, that example was the example that was given, right? So we're in good hands here, because Frank here is one of the very few people who actually work with video on IPFS. And so, if you have any questions about video, and if you can go help this mother, go help him, because it's insane. To be able to do what I just described, to be able to do that right, is like, that's the next gen, you know, that's, why am I wasting 100 gigs, you know? Think about how many people in your building has seen the same YouTube video that you watch. It's probably a lot. So, let's figure out, so yeah.
It does raise the point that you should ideally trust whoever you're requesting a file from, you know, before you.
If you're using IPFS,
before you go
right?
requesting a file, you know,
Right.
like, you should probably trust the person before, right? Because.
Well, luckily with IPFS you don't even need to, right? Like, you can escape this stuff.
I mean, like he was mentioning, like, what if there's malicious,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Well, you can verify the hash once it's fully downloaded, but if it's streaming, then you can't.
You can even do you can validate the hash before. So you can actually, if you run a checksum or something on the hash, just on the name, you can form the data.
The stream uses the hash, but you know, the stream will return bytes before it
You'll actually start streaming a block or something.
yeah.
So there's actually a lot of work to be done on like
processes.
right. There's a lot of work on being able to like he was saying, streaming in different chunks.
Right.
So like, how do I trust when do I start trusting these chunks, and like how do I, there's a lot of work to still be done on that. Just like there's
It's more of a user interface issue, I think.
right. Yeah. Hence why if you're working in IPFS, your legitimacy, like if you're starting to do business, it's like really important to have like a good foundation, and to be like, okay, this is where I'm going with this. Like, I'm not just gonna like send IPFS data without it being secure, because that would kind of defeat the purpose. And so, yeah, cool. So, cool. Any questions on anything? Anybody got any questions?
So in the instance where somebody doesn't want you to post or host anything, like, because on IPFS,
Awesome.
there seems to be an active example, right? Like, Meta's leaked Llama large language model has been put on IPFS, and someone something like that.
Messing with weights.
I don't know if anyone knows any more about that, if you've heard about this, but.
So yeah, so there's an AI model that Facebook Meta came up with.
Right.
And
so
they're hosting it on IPFS?
Yes.
Oh, of course you would. Because, yeah, why are you trying to keep this is America. We're allowed to have our AI. Why are you taking my AI away from me? The fact that Meta is trying to hide that in the first place is funny. You know, that's interesting.
They want to restrict it to specifically researchers.
Yeah. Okay. So if you have content on IPFS, you have illegal content, because there's a lot of content on the internet that shouldn't be there. Okay. Legitimately, like there's some stuff that should be on the internet. So how do you keep track of that? Luckily we have this cool service called Bad Bits, and so if there's luckily, like if you're using HTTP and you're hosting something illegal, what happens?
Yeah, IP address and stuff's wrong.
IP address, right? So a government says, hey, you're not supposed to have that, and so they go after the internet service provider, which is AT&T, and AT&T will shut you down, right? Right. So the same thing happens on IPFS. It's the protocol in which moves the files around isn't the issue. It's the person who's on the end. And so so what controls content, like prohibited content on the internet today? Well, there's nothing really. It's kind of just governments will get a DMCA. HBO is like, my movie is on this torrent, so like they gotta stop hosting this because they're stealing my movie. And so then the government goes and does. So it's this big, like, if you've ever got a DMCA takedown, if you've ever been downloading stuff and you've gotten your internet service provider, involved, it's a big shit show. It's been a shit show. And so with IPFS, it was really a big, especially like in the beginning, it was a big, like, nobody knew what was going on, because like we had 10 years in normal Web 2 to figure out this shit show, and then with IPFS, it's like a whole new one. And so, luckily, now we have this thing called Bad Bits, which there's a lot of gateways that are publicly ran by IPFS. They run it as a service good for the public, okay? So the gateway that is calling my object, that gateway is, it's using the Web3 storage gateway, which IPFS stands up themselves. And so you can't host, if they're hosting illegal content, that's not good. And so they have this cool system called Bad Bits, to where if there's an image that is prohibited, it gets added to this list through IPFS's legal team. And so all of the requests just go through their legal team. They'll do an investigation, and then whatever content is removed. And so so if you're building anything on IPFS, and if you have, like, it's very stressful to say, hey, I have a place where you can send data to, and I will host it for you. Okay, if you call this data, I will send it to you. To do that is hyper stressful. I don't know if anybody has ever done that. I'm getting into that, so if you want to talk about it, I'd love to. The thing is if you're trusting people with the data that they have, there's a lot of bad stuff that can happen with that. There's a lot of things that need to be going on to make sure data is what it should be. And so if you're building one of those systems, use Bad Bits. Because if somebody puts something into your system and it's prohibited, it's already going to be flagged in their system, and so you can just take advantage of this cool thing.
How's that? You're giving the example of Spain and what, Catalan or something, Catalonia.
Encrypted, bro. That's what I'm thinking.
So yeah, okay. Think about it. There's a huge difference. There's a very big difference between a human problem of, like, okay, this country wants to secede, and this content is illegal. Like, this content is prohibited. Okay.
Yeah, but the government can say this is illegal.
But it's not the government who's doing it. Who keeps track of the bad bits list is the legal team at IPFS. So
and whoever is hosting the hardware infrastructure, right? I could say I'm hosting this infrastructure to host legitimate content, not to host illegal content. So if I find that, I don't have to replicate your data. I don't have to appear with with your peers, and so you're just, you know, maybe you'll find some peers that will connect with you, but if I'm, you know, putting the money up for that infrastructure, you know, I can set the rules.
Or if you really believe that content should be up, like you were saying, like
Yeah.
China or something like that blocks it, you can have your own gateway.
Yeah, but you're
Like you don't know, that's the thing, it's like it's trustless. Like if the IPFS are using things that like Wikipedia was not legal or something, right? Technically it's illegal in a lot of places. You just have your own gateway. You have to like, you know, even if it's banned bits or whatever, so it's because the content is like is addressable, that's the thing that makes it like really magical. It's like it's backwards from how most of Web2 stuff works.
So yeah, yeah.
Good?
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, that's how you put a. That's how you put a web page on IPFS. You have an HTML page. It can't be dynamic. It has to be React. So if you're using React, you have to do an npm React build, and then you have your build folder, and then you send your build folder to webpage.storage. And
Really mess around like DNS stuff. Like, how do you like the DNS linking? I've tried to use it before, but it doesn't like.
so if we're gonna have a conversation on IPFS, we should like legitimately do like a group workshop on IPFS to where like
it's actually like I'm like I'm a smart person, I can't figure this out.
It's
I'm a dumb person and I can't figure it out. So
documentation was like
I actually use not DNS link, but we have IPNS running with Dynamo because you have to have a database to keep track of what goes to what.
Can you do like
DNS link you don't have to. Yeah. Yeah, I had
that's what really makes it good. We're actually going to switch over a little bit.
So empirically speaking, you're replacing one authority with another authority. You're replacing the government with the legal team at IPFS, and then you can represent them as well.
That's a very small issue. That's like that problem with the bad bits is about like content, like
No, but that's another problem. Because you don't want pedophilia, you don't want nazism, no one shit like that. Yeah, so if what is stopping the actual government, the actual authority to come and do something about
so
it?
it's going to be your internet service provider. So that's fine. Like that's good. So like that's what it is. Like we're replacing this.
But then the whole premise is everything is open and all that. Somehow
Still open. Like so.
Wouldn't it be ideal to have a solution within IPFS that could?
There is, but that's bad bits. Bad bits is a list that all over the
switch gears a little.
Yeah.
it's open.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about new topic. Again, I'm Dante from Convergence.
What?
We're going to talk about IPC right now, which is Interplanetary Consensus. It is basically a newer attempt to scale Filecoin to scale really any blockchain horizontally, which, you know, usually when people talk about horizontal scaling, they're talking about like microservices, which, you know, we'll talk about some of the issues involved in that too. But this is a really cool project. I got to talk to this team this last week. Again, this is IPC. We can watch this video quick. It's really quick.
Storage is rapidly becoming an element of critical infrastructure for Web3. In the years ahead, it will provide a backbone for the growth of the new meta economy. With the launch of the Filecoin VM, developers will have a firm foundation on which to build storage-intensive applications in decentralized computing, GameFi, the metaverse, DeFi, and beyond. For many, however, scalability remains a roadblock. As a chain gains users, it becomes the victim of its own success. Transactions are delayed, fees increase, and the user experience suffers. So how can a blockchain achieve escape velocity? Horizontal scaling. The main bottleneck to scalability is the consensus layer, and interplanetary consensus provides the solution. IPC avoids the limitations of traditional sharding strategies. Instead of partitioning state, IPC introduces subnets, which applications can create at will and use to execute transactions. Each subnet can execute transactions in parallel and customize its own consensus algorithm, and further subnets can be deployed as needed, creating a hierarchy. By checkpointing state with regards against malicious transactions. Furthermore, subnets can interact horizontally with one another in the system. This flexibility means IPC subnets can be molded to resemble various L2 platforms. In addition to the ability to compute and coordinate, IPC also offers other unique benefits. Smaller sets of validators in proximity can attain much lower latency. And partition tolerance means that functionality is maintained, even with connectivity constraints. In short, interplanetary consensus offers performance, configurability, security, and scalability. With the power of IPC, the future is yours to build. Head to ipc.space to learn more and launch your next decentralized application.
How is this different to what Polkadot is doing?
So Polkadot's a sidechain. This has similar kind of use cases, but on IPC you could actually implement multiple consensus algorithms. So you're not bound by like if you wanted to spawn your own Polkadot sidechain, you can do that, but you're still bound by the Polkadot consensus protocol, right? So on this, you could actually spawn. I'll show you.
So you're saying it's more scalable?
It is, yeah. Well, it's more dynamic. Yeah,
It's more usable.
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits to it.
What's the difference between this and LibP? Is this just like a bigger version of LibP?
No, LibP2P is a peer-to-peer networking protocol. This is the
Consensus protocol.
consensus protocol.
So yeah, like you would want to implement this if you have like a token project or something and you need consensus to like mediate the transactions, this is what you would use, right? You would implement this.
Yeah. I'm gonna show you a bunch of really cool use cases for it. So during transactions constitute significant scalability bottlenecks standing in the way of massive adoption. All participants need to execute sequentially every single transaction. Layer 2 protocols in resolving this scalability limitation. So they present interplanetary consensus. It enhances the scaling capabilities of L2 plus protocols. Users of IPC can dynamically spawn new blockchain subsystems, subnets, as children of any existing subnet. IPC is based on the design principles of on-demand horizontal scaling. Child subnets leverage the security of their parent subnets by periodically checkpointing their state in the parent state. And yeah, they believe this addresses several issues with existing L2 approaches, including limited throughput capacity, isolation from each other, centralized components, and monolithic architecture. So there's a lot more on their GitHub.
The child subnet's based on transport.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. So if we look at their website again, Mirran Trantor, they actually, I believe they're involved in the writing of Mirran and Trantor also. So Trantor is a really cool system. Again, the problem Trantor solves is total order broadcast, informally in a system consisting of multiple nodes. Each node receives client transactions and output batches such that the sequence of transaction batches output by each node is the same. Actually, Mirror is something that we probably have interacted with in some way. So Mirror is a distributed protocol implementation framework. Let's see. Yeah, basically, so there are a bunch of use cases here, like peer-to-peer chat, and any kind of distributed consensus protocol, like CRDT based, where you're trying to become eventually consistent on state. All the nodes eventually merge on state. This is a framework that you can implement to kind of give you that. So yeah, again, distributed networks, and those are the two main packages that IPC is built on. And then going back here, yeah, so again, I talked to these guys this week, and if I go to my notes, I've got my AI overlord recorded this, so I'm gonna let you guys just kind of hear it from them, kind of what the IPC team thinks, or how they describe this. So basically, I asked them to just kind of describe the architecture a little bit, and this is what they said. Maybe it's just not here. There's something, but maybe it's not.
I couldn't imagine it's very intensive to run, right?
It's like Lotus, kind of.
Oh god, that ain't good.
Yeah, it's it's doable. I would say you need like at least four core, like 8 gig of RAM, like probably 200 gig hard drive or something.
To run what?
To run IPC and IPC implementation. Yeah, I guess the sound on here isn't playing. That's okay. I can read some of this. So basically, as hardware requirements, so basically, the key infrastructure of subnet is the following. You get an IPC agent, which is the one that orchestrates the communication between the different applications. And these interact with the IPC agent, which is the one that under the hood interacts with the underlying peers and which are the subnets and also like the root chain on top. So if you have a single subnet, your agent will be connected to at least two networks, the parent network and the child subnetworks. So if you're in Filecoin mainnet and you want to deploy a new subnet, what you do is you deploy a set of smart contracts in the Filecoin mainnet, and then you spawn your side of the chain, and your agent handles all of the back and forth between your subnets and the parent chain. This is a diagram I did to kind of showcase this a little bit. So, trying to zoom in. Yeah, again, basically you have some Filecoin FEM smart contracts. You've got this IPC agent that you basically download from their GitHub and you spin it up. Again, you probably need at least like 4 core, 8 gig of RAM to run it. Nothing too crazy. And then it spawns this root subnet, and below this root subnet, you can have as many other subnets as you want. And again, these can have different consensus protocols in them. So if you wanted to create like a Web3 game or something, you could basically spawn a new subnet off of Filecoin, have issue your own token, right, with your own consensus algorithm. All of the actions or the transactions that happen in that subnet can stay in that subnet as long as they need to. You can even have multiple subnets, multiple chains. So if you have like in your game, maybe you have like NFT like items people can win, then maybe you have like some token that you need to pay for your hosting or something, or maybe you maybe every one of your users is able to spawn their own tokens, right? So you can have these kind of multiple subnets, and they can actually all communicate with each other. That's a big benefit of IPC. And you can layer these on top of each other. And if we look here, this is kind of the network. So basically, it's a little bit tough to see, but these are validator nodes. Every subnet has to have its own validator nodes. It's kind of like your miners essentially. There has to be somebody in the network that is incentivized to validate the consensus on your network, and they kind of leave that incentive model to you, so you can pick and choose what your incentive model would be for those validator nodes. And you can also have smart contracts on those subnets. So again, you can spin up your own network, you can spin up your own blockchains, essentially. Everything going on down here will settle onto my root subnet, so it won't bubble up to the parent chain unless you issue an action, like a settlement action. So you could run your own subnet for years essentially without settling up on the parent chain without blocking resources on that parent chain. And again, if you wanted to basically shard this, you can do it horizontally, so that like maybe this room for this this meetup, we spawn our own subnet, so that if we want to do transactions in this room, we could do that. Maybe because we have enough validators in this room, we have enough space on the network. Maybe those transactions have 0 transaction fees.
When do you pay?
So you pay when you spawn the network, right? So you have to lock up. Basically, you're doing a smart contract on FEM and locking up some initial value, and then you can utilize that value on the lower for your system.
Are you constricted to a certain language?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, well, a lot of these systems, you know, Lotus, a lot of the IPFS systems are using Go, in terms of implementation. I think Rust too now, a lot of them, they're starting to build support for a lot more.
But yeah, you probably can do more than enough with Go.
Go's great.
And you're only paying when you're spawning up when you're connecting to the chain again?
Correct, yes. Yeah,
So-
I mean, there will, you know, if there's a negative balance, once you settle up, you'll have to reconcile that as part of the smart contract. So the smart contract won't.
What's an average amount?
Man, that's a great question. So
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now,
definitely.
yeah, I mean, right now, this is not live on mainnet. They are using it, well, they're using it on the Filecoin chain, I think, to scale FDM. Like, you can actually run FDM in one of these subnets, and, you know, because FDM uses WASM, to execute your, you know, your compute, whatever your script is. That execution can happen down here, and it never has to touch the parent chain. So again, gets rid of that backlog. Besides them using it internally, it's only available on SpaceNet right now. So you can, you know, go to the like Filecoin faucet and grab a bunch of coins and play around with it. So that's probably the best way to kind of figure out, you know, how much you know, funds you need to lock up to kind of do what you're trying to do. It really depends on your use case, I guess.
And basically that's how Filecoin benefits by more people coming in. There's a higher demand for the actual token.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that does it.
Without overcrowding the chain, you know, transactions on the chain. Because right now, I mean, I think Bitcoin just got hit with, Bitcoin had like their CryptoKitties moment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, on Ethereum for a long, you know, 20, you know, if you want it fast,
Yeah,
you know, I guess it depends how fast you want it sent, right? But like that's untenable. With like, the idea behind Lightning is that, you know, we could have 0 transaction fees, because, you know, there's 2 to 3% transaction fees for everything that we buy right now, right? So that's a big deal, when your margin is only 5%, right?
Okay, so what are the downsides? What are the risks?
Yeah.
It's brand new. There's nothing to work with probably.
Yes,
You only have one code to write on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so these
actual
are,
risks.
There's
these
only
are
one
some of
dev.
yeah, these are some of the considerations. Basically, they are still considering some pretty major architectural issues. For example, communicating with, how would a subnet communicate with the Filecoin storage provider? Lotus implementation, are they gonna continue to support Lotus? Are they gonna fork and go their own direction? Are they gonna stick with BNB consensus engine? Are they gonna go towards?
BNB is Binance?
No, BNB is we can look at this.
Excuse my ignorance.
No.
Sounds like violence.
Yeah. BNB chain. It's actually, I think, was it Mirran? I think Mirran is actually what Binance Dex is built on, so it could be.
Yeah, by the way, Mir was the first Russian space.
The Trantor was you know what Trantor was?
Trantor in Romanian means Milby, so I don't give a shit.
In Isaac Asimov's book, Trantor is the planet where it's like where all the humans live. It's like the biggest city planet in the Asimov Foundation book. So it's like the foundation of everything. So I saw it makes sense that it's like the broadcast node or whatever. I don't know, so somebody
So BNB is like a consensus algorithm or a consensus engine. You can generate. Yeah, and then Tendermint, they're also looking at potentially switching to Tendermint, which is again another blockchain framework, consensus framework, leading BFT engine for building blockchains. Here's a bunch of languages.
Binance owns BNB.
Okay. Yeah, Tendermint. Just different way to go about it. There are some differences, so they're trying to figure out if they're gonna kind of switch to the Tendermint way of doing things. So these are like pretty big architectural changes. They said that they're hoping to launch to mainnet by July, but they're not 100% sure. Yeah, so that's, you know, some of the other issues with horizontal scaling, right? Just because it's serverless, right, doesn't mean there aren't servers involved. Like anytime somebody says microservices, right, we're gonna go, like, we're going away from the cloud, we're going microservices, right? We're doing horizontal scaling, we're doing, again, horizontal scaling, microservices, smart contracts, they're all really kind of the same terms for the serverless architecture, right? And I know like Amazon tried to go serverless and like it was a complete failure and they had to move everything back to standard cloud. There's still servers involved, right? There still has to be infrastructure to support those networks. And so who's going to support that if everyone's, you know, just wants their microservice when they want it, right?
How close is Filecoin with BNB out of curiosity?
I mean, I would say the teams, like there's probably some cross current on the, you know, people on the teams, I would assume. Especially the European teams. I know a lot of the finance stuff is out of like Eastern Europe, Hungary. Yeah, so I don't think it's super close.
Thank you.
Yeah, so again, you know, the dangers in kind of like the serverless architecture is that you still need servers. So if you're saying, okay, like just go serverless, why would you do that? Because, you know, you're not paying for servers to be running 24/7, right? But somebody is, right? So how do you square that? Who's responsible then? You know, it kind of goes back to the counterparty thing. It's like, okay, we just trust these processes to like this third party that's running all the infrastructure for this, then we're bound by, you know, if they want to block that content on that infrastructure, like they can do that. So yeah, again, trade-offs. You gotta look at, you know, is it worth it to run my own? Or, you know, again, with these, if you're running a subnet, and the subnet has incentive for validation, like maybe you become a validator, and you can like reap rewards for doing that, and that adds to the decentralization of the network. And so there should be incentives for people to run the servers that these systems need, right? And so that's, again, that part, the IPC team kind of leads up to whoever's implementing it. You have to figure out how you're going to incentivize the validators of your consensus protocol to actually be validators and to stand up that hardware. And that's a challenge. So again, that's something my company is looking at. We've got some interesting ways of looking at it, but yeah, again, you guys can join us on Slack. There's a survey. Any other questions about IPC? Or is there any, you know, we got about 20 minutes. Anything else you guys want?
Well, let's see, one question I have is, okay, so suppose you deploy, like, suppose I write, like, someone writes a cool app, right, and deploys it on this IPC, and then that that company goes out of business, like they, is it like, so would it be possible for like the community to kind of like, cause it's deployed on, presumably on Filecoin, like somebody else could like take it over and like start running those servers?
100%. I mean, if the consensus protocol or the consensus algorithm is like well defined, and you've got enough community members that are running nodes to validate on that consensus layer, like if they don't turn their nodes off, yeah, it'll stay alive. Yeah. So yeah, you don't really need the founders to be involved. Heard like again interesting use cases being kind of like in the gaming sector. You know, if you want to spawn your own NFTs for some game, you want to create your own markets, or you want to allow your users to create their own markets, this could be a way that they do that. And again, it could all be decentralized. So if that game company goes away, they don't lose their like digital IP, right?
The users don't.
The users don't lose.
Right. The developers, right? They're like, screw that. They're like, you know, some guy's looking for me. I'm not going back to work. You know, I gotta go hide, right? So they're just in their hole. That's all. All the users and stuff. They're like, oh well, like I want to play this game next week, so like I'm gonna fork, or I'm not even gonna fork it. I'm just gonna run a validator, so I can keep. So that way the network will just keep going. I mean, there's a lot of examples of like you're playing a game, and then all of a sudden the user get rubbed. It's like you can't log into your game anymore. It's like, well, that gets through that.
Yeah. This is my company's app, Cloud Forest. Basically, it's a. I think we just pushed an update today. Basically, an onboarding system for your data on Filecoin. So basically, what we do is we spin up your own cloud server for you, and that includes your own IPFS node, your own Lotus node, and again, it gives you this infrastructure that you can act as your own pinning service. You can actually have multiple nodes. They're copying the data between them all the time, but it's your own private IPFS. So if you don't want to interact with the outside world, you don't have to. But you can upload files here. You can import files from a Google Drive and Dropbox, and then you can, because it's got libp2p, which is PDP networking protocol. If I have Cloud Forest and you have Cloud Forest, we can peer-to-peer communicate with each other, and maybe we want to collectively run validators for some, subnet for a game that we really love, right? Because we have our own distributed server, distributed cluster, basically, self-hosted cluster, we could run those validators on this infrastructure that you're already paying for to just store your data, right? Like your own Dropbox. Right? So instead of paying for Dropbox or Google, pay for a server, and you can do all these other cool things with it. You can actually contribute resources to these centralized networks. You can, create a CDN, contribute to a CDN that then, instead of like your favorite artist having to use YouTube CDN or Spotify CDN, they can use your CDN and actually keep more of the advertising revenues, for example. So there's, again, these systems, decentralized systems, they need nodes. It's, I think, personally, much easier to solve a lot of these scaling issues if every end user in the system has their own nodes, right? So that's
the core idea, though, like we've talked about many times, is eventually in 10 years we have nodes light enough that'll run on our phone, on our laptop, and
employee wants to go with FVM, right? We wanna separate the all the different jobs that the node does into microservices and only call them when we need it, only pay for that compute when we need it. But we still need hardware to back that up. And so the other thing is though, everything you do on the internet is a file, right? And in Web3, ideally you own your own data, right? That's the big, I think that's the big flashpoint with Web3 is your data's not going to be stored on a dozen like third-party databases owned by other third parties. Your data should be stored in one database hosted by you. So if you're going to do that, you already have a server, basically. You already have a hard drive to run that stuff on. So you can contribute that to the network. You can still run serverless architecture. You can still run FVM and only pay for certain resources as you need them. But it's kind of nice to always have this backup of your data. So you have an easily accessible backup, which is just again on a server. These servers cost anywhere from $20 to $40 a month right now, and that's like there's no consumer demand for these right now. So if demand raised higher, I think we could get server prices down to like $5-10 a month for like a 4 to 8 core server. A pretty strong server 5 to 10 years from now is going to be pretty cheap. So it just makes sense to have that as a backup, and then also
only if you need it though. You gotta preface what you're saying.
I think you need it. I think everyone in web needs it because right now, what's the alternative? You store your data with a third party. There's no other alternative.
But now I have to manage a bunch of these servers, which I don't have.
No.
What do you mean?
What do you manage? The server stays on 24/7. It's there. Like this is my server. This is me managing my server.
Right. You have a cloud account.
This is what it looks like. What?
You have a cloud account. The same as you would if you had someone else.
Not necessarily. You have a service provider. Yeah.
The use case for this, I feel like you gotta be like very upfront. Okay, because like I make websites and I have a collective 50 gigs that I save elsewhere. Okay, 50 gigs. So for me to spend $80 a month on 2 servers doesn't make too much sense at all. Unless I was a YouTuber that had 2 terabytes.
Yeah. I don't think you're gonna spend for.
I wouldn't even, dude, my cloud costs, I spend $5 a month probably for everything.
Yeah, sure.
So like.
Sure, but is it secure, right? Like, what happens if you lose that hard drive or?
I've done it for 15 years. It was good enough for. I mean, what do you mean? Like, how secure is your phone?
Here's the other thing to think about though. Your data, your data is more than just your files, right? Your data. Every time you take a step, if you use Google Maps or you have a iWatch, Apple Watch, or anything, it's generating data, and that data is getting stored in a database somewhere, right? All of us are generating files all the time. Where is that data, right? That's really the data that you need someplace to centralize.
Even if I
control it.
Even if I had it, right? This,
yeah.
My Apple Watch, I can't go to Apple and say save it here.
You can.
Apple?
You have to because it's your data. They have to give it to you. They have to.
Best of luck with that.
Yeah.
How will
okay.
they sell
Dude, what do you mean? When is Apple giving you any
Yeah.
You can
information?
go to Google right now and see all of your.
We're talking
data.
about Apple.
That doesn't mean, you can go and request it, but that doesn't mean that when you go to
Go
Google
and
Maps.
request it. What happens next?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for your request. Someone in our team will take care of it.
In 2 weeks,
Class action laws?
within 2
Oh,
weeks,
oh,
no,
no.
it literally says, they say within 2 weeks, we'll get you your data. They say in 2 weeks. It's not like there's no integration. Like when you talk to Google
This
Maps.
is valuable. This is how they make money. This is how they target you. This is how they sell you advertising.
Yeah.
Do you honestly believe that they will give that away?
They're not gonna get, yeah.
Honestly.
This is
Genuinely.
why people need Web3. Like they need to go. They need the inverse, right?
so
So
that's
store
the
your
group.
data.
You've
with
got
the
to
So
data.
then you have to serve it.
But you love
You have to have
iCloud.
it.
Like all you probably pay for iCloud, right? how much do you pay for iCloud every
About
month?
like
you
$3 a month.
pay for this,
$3 a month.
you spend more than $5 a month.
No, I
on
spend
storage.
$3 a month on iCloud.
Okay. Doubt it.
Who spends more than $10 a month on cloud storage? Other than you, because you have a bunch of videos. Who spends over $10 a month for cloud storage? Who's got over a terabyte? You're the only person. Bro, who's got more than a terabyte a day?
Most people probably have about 250 gigs.
Look,
I have 4 terabytes in my home server, and I would never,
No,
ever
yeah.
put it online.
No, I'm saying like if you took all the data that you store on Google Drive, on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook,
but you don't
everything
get
is
that
probably
data.
about 250 gigs. Right?
You don't get that data. That's what we're
You
saying.
can. There's APIs.
Well, yes, I know there's
Yeah,
APIs,
but like that's, first of all, that's not even all the
guys.
data.
the system is broken. No, but you
Yes.
still want to hold all the data from Web 2 and move it into somewhere else?
Don't worry, Dante, I'll use it. I like to back up all my stuff.
No, and don't get me wrong, I
It's
think
very
there's a
simple.
market
Don't
for
worry.
what you're
They're
saying.
paying
It's
me.
very simple.
No, there's a
That's
market,
because
there's a
you're
market
using the
for
Google
sure.
API, yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
there's an
understand
system
that.
that
Okay,
your data
that's what I'm
can
saying.
access it.
What
Why-
are the
why
APIs
hold
that
on
you're
to
The
not
the
talking
incentives are
about?
not.
What are the
Yeah.
APIs that you're talking about that don't exist?
Like what?
Like the API to go, like Apple literally,
They don't have
they
an
were,
API. Look, these are all the files in my Google Drive.
you can stream a list,
Yes.
that's fine.
You can
Everybody,
import it,
every
import
cloud
it.
provider has that.
It's uploading it to my own private IPFS network,
Right.
and now it's there, and I can back it up on Filecoin now. It's
That's
right here,
dope, that's super dope.
right? I can view it. Not on the.
Right, but that's the thing is
So that's
it's up to you to do it. You have to
Yeah,
sit
it's
there
like
and
a
you
one-off, but like, if you wanna like synchronize it, I don't know.
how do you make it live?
Oh, no.
How do you make it
can
live?
You can sync it.
Okay, so the thing is,
If you have a server, so think about it, if you have a server that's running 24/7 all the time, and it has all your data, right? You have your own AI assistant on there that's doing shit for you 24/7, right?
what does that even mean?
What do you mean, what does it mean? It
Okay,
means you have an
AI assistant. Okay, AI assistant. Okay, I use ChatGPT to write me a
So-
web page. What do I need an AI assistant for? What are you talking about?
If all your banking information and all your credit cards and all your spending information were in one place, it would do your taxes for you automatically. You wouldn't have to use something like QuickBooks where you have to input all of those, cause all of that data exists on these Visa has it,
Yeah,
your
but
bank has it.
dude, Chase
right?
would give you $1 trillion if you gave them a system that was able to fumble through the mass amount of data that humans have. How are you gonna sort through that? That's why on QuickBooks you have to do it yourself.
It only has to look through yours. If it's only your data, it doesn't have to worry about.
It only has to
else's
go
data.
through my Gmail and it can't find shit. So you know what I mean? Like I've got everything saved in my Gmail and it can't. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
You can't find it?
Dude, if you're doing
your
tech,
shopping for you, it can literally take notes during your meeting.
what you're saying though is very vague. It's hard to even put a graph.
I have like a legit use case. I actually created a LAN chain, autonomous agent that what it's doing is every time one of my competitors puts up a blog post, it gives me a summary and sends it to me. And it could actually, regurgitate that blog post so that I can basically put it on mine. So like stuff like that, it's like, that's like the first little bit, but it just runs continuously.
Okay, well, like
Anytime.
I thought what you're talking about is a bucket, 2 nodes that you can send data to, and it'll hold the data. Okay, that problem alone, figuring that out. What's this like? Save everything, have an AI assistant look at that. Now I'm confused. Okay, Okay, I thought what we were doing is
It's a bucket with your data. Of course, you can have an AI that only,
okay.
So
So every bucket like this does that too, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I thought this was, you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
and also, so again, as you generate data, like you can control the algorithm. If you control
But
the
that's
data,
you do.
control
Who
the
writes that
algorithm.
stuff? That's for you to do, so you can give it to me.
Anybody can write it. That's what's so cool.
I can't write it. That's up to you.
No,
What do
anybody
you
could.
mean?
Anybody could write for this system.
Dude, I use Google because it's easy. Okay, I don't use Google so I can write a new algorithm to sort my data. You know what I mean? That's for you to decide.
That's just
Well,
a
but if
user,
there's
that's
like
an easy user interface problem, right? right? Like Blue
Good,
Sky, this is Blue Sky's
That's good then.
whole thing is they want to give you control over the algorithms that populate your newsfeed, right? Imagine if I could have a newsfeed that was every musician I listen to, what are they listening to right now? Like, what did they just save into their playlist today? All of my favorite artists, give me a newsfeed of all of the songs that they added to their playlist. You could do that in this kind of system.
Yeah, I think
And all the communication
Why would
happens
you want to? I'm
peer to
just
peer
lost on
via
why you would want to.
IPFS. Well, why would you want to use open links? Like,
Because I want
because
people to
you-
see some links. That's
right.
it.
Well, that's why
What is-
somebody would use this, because you want a peer-to-peer network for distribution, right? Like,
This
if
isn't a
you
solution
have-
for everything. You can't like, what are you
It's a
talking?
distribution network, man. It's IPFS.
So, okay, so it's IPFS.
It's an onboarding platform for IPFS
This-
to make IPFS simple, right?
Oh, I'm confused.
There's a use case. No,
I'm
definitely,
Yeah,
there's
there's
a use
a
case.
use case.
There's definitely a use case. It's just
No, no,
I'm
no.
confused what the use case is.
There is a
It's
subset
up
of
to you,
people
right?
like me that like I use like 4 different backup services for all my stuff.
Yes.
Because my laptop, yeah, it's only worth $2,000 on the street, but it's like almost $1 million worth of years of development time that I have in
Yes.
it. So that's more valuable to me than $8 a month.
How old are
extra.
you? Million years?
Right. So when you talk about
I'm the
you
big
can
guy.
have music
I'm
streamed
old.
into this,
For sure.
okay? I'm like him. I've got a lot of data that's really important for me, and I want it safe. But you're talking to me about music.
You don't need cold storage. You don't need hot storage for that. You just need cold storage. You don't need to serve that. You don't need to store that on a server. Like that, well, you can upload that to the server, use that to upload it to Filecoin, seal it in Filecoin for cold storage. If your hard drive dies, who cares?
Right.
Right?
So that's what I'm saying. So I understand that. Then you're taking me down the music route, and like you can collate, you can see what people are looking at, and it's like I'm
Because
stuck on
it's
what
data, man. Like
everything's data. Though.
everything's a file. That's why Filecoin's so awesome. That's why IPFS is so awesome.
So what you need to do is you
You can
need
host
to give me
anything on
a
IPFS.
path to where I'm like I can see what my friends are looking at. That's like what the developer leads the user down that path.
Sure.
Okay, so like you're saying, you can have all these paths, and what I'm saying is
My
like
point
as a
is-
user.
My point is, it is possible, it's, okay. If you don't have the server, it won't scale. Because you can't incentivize enough people with servers to support your network.
Whoever said that you like.
Web3,
who said
Pinata
that?
is having this problem, that's why their prices are so high right now. Web3.storage is gonna have this problem, they're just, like, they had a ton of help from Protocol Labs to support all of those NFTs that are stored on Web3.storage. If they didn't have that $500 million, company behind them, guess what? It wouldn't work, like, you need hardware.
And
You don't
they're
care
running
'cause you
on
don't-
AWS too.
Like, yeah, you're using these services and you're not paying
So
for them.
what
They're doing the same thing you're talking.
what infrastructure is your thing running on?
Yeah.
Well, in terms of,
Like
it can run on,
but what is it running? Like if I buy your service, like what is it actually running on?
It can run anywhere. It
Like,
can
I
run
know
anywhere
it
in the
can,
world.
but where
That's what I'm
is
saying.
it?
Nothing is everything is so vague
It's
with this.
No, it's distributed, guys. It's not like mine.
No,
It's
but-
not centralized. Like
like,
you're not interacting with something that I spin up.
So it runs on
So
whatever
I
you're
control it.
running.
So it's running on the Filecoin
It
network?
it runs on Docker, right? Linux, Docker, the same thing. Any IPFS node.
And
runs
who's your
on.
service provider?
It's got IPF. It doesn't matter. It can run anywhere.
What do you mean it doesn't matter?
Well, so
There's 10 storage providers, or there's 10 hosting providers I can name right now. So
Okay,
it has
no,
to be
what he's
together.
just asking is specifically.
No, so right now we have Vulture and we have Picnic.
Okay.
There's
right,
two,
Right.
right?
So what do you mean it doesn't like?
It can run anywhere. If a client.
Anything can run anywhere, Dante. Anything.
Yeah, any Docker container, that's the point.
If you have a React app, you can run it anywhere. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you
Are we
saying?
out of time?
Why don't I?
Are we out of time?
So what are you saying you can run
Hold
Where
on.
are
anywhere?
you saying?
I have parking validations for anyone who parks in the
Oh,
garage.
parking.
You're
What's your
saying
point?
it can run anywhere.
Yeah.
What are you talking like anything can run anywhere.
Yeah,
What
so
is
what
like
he's
that?
saying, what
He's
he's saying-
asking where are you running?
Oh,
can run
I'm
anything.
saying pick one. I'm saying pick one.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
It
Right.
doesn't matter. It's
So, why, like, how about, why isn't there like some kind of system where, you know, like you could have a little server, right, like, that everybody could run in their house, right?
Yeah.
The closet, the famous closet server.
Yeah.
The closet server, right?
Or you know,
Men in their
a Wi-Fi
closets.
router.
So, you know, what about having like a protocol that incentivizes like everyone to just run their own server and like
Yeah.
share the risk?
There is, yeah. That's called Saturn.
Again,
Yeah.
yeah, or what's the other one with Wi-Fi?
Bury.
Helium. Yeah,
Helium,
but
yeah.
again,
Oh yeah.
like there's not enough incentives in that. There's barely enough incentives in Filecoin for there to be Filecoin storage providers.
Really? Wow.
Right?
Yeah, I was kind
How
of
do you
wondering, like,
incentivize people to do that?
well, if there would be a market for it, like,
Exactly.
I would buy some hard drives
Well,
and stick it
listen,
in my closet.
millions of people spend $9.99 a month on Spotify
Right.
and Netflix.
But they're buying you.
No, they're buying a server that serves them music. They're just
Dude, Spotify spends so much money on creating a library. Okay, their whole business is we're gonna come up with the best.
AI.
They're buying UX.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think,
Yeah.
you know, there is a case for having control, instead of letting like big corporations
Yes.
like
Control your
playlists, right?
Oh, and then
know.
you let BNB
You're
do
already paying
the
for
logic
this.
behind it.
The problem is
Nice.
like you don't control it.
Yeah.
And
But like-
the content creators are the big ones though. Like,
Thanks, y'all. Have a good night.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm not trying to rush you.
no, you're good. So there was like some crumbs and stuff left up here. It wasn't us. It was